We're just problem solvers, Jean-Marc. That's what we are. Problem solvers.
You know, as I said, this is what happens when you write a book that is a spiritual critique of Silicon Valley. Somebody at Facebook is just
They
like,
come after you.
let me sabotage your best. We just spent 30 minutes waiting for Facebook Live to work and nothing.
Nothing.
Annie, you have got to be one of the most gracious, kind people I've ever internet met. We should make up a new name. Internet? Internet. That's great.
That's brilliant.
Because you and I have never been in the same room together, but I feel like
No.
I know you. We've intermet.
Yeah, that's right. If the hardest thing you ask me to do in this friendship is sit on a FaceTime for 30 minutes and talk, and even if we can't make it work, we're going to be fine, buddy. It's all right.
Oh, that's so good. Well, any of you online right now, thanks so much for watching. If you were sitting around eating dinner waiting for us on Facebook Live 30 minutes ago, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm Hey Boomer in a 30-something Bommy. Just my parents, my mom has more like internet skills than I do. God bless my mom. She's quite sophisticated, but not my thing. So this is technically week 3 of an online book club, which is basically just an excuse for me to chat to people that have great things to say in similar themes to my book on Hurry. And Annie, you're amazing. And I'm just so happy. Let's just start. How are you? So we were just starting to say that Nashville, it sounds like, is way ahead of Portland as far as you're eating in restaurants.
I feel
you're getting your hair done.
Yeah, it's unfair. Yeah, Nashville's mayor, the state of Tennessee has done this different than the city of Nashville, but our mayor has done a tiered approach.
Yeah,
where it's like, if for 14 days your numbers don't go up, then we'll do this. And so it's all behavior based.
Right. So it's good. So is that like a good motivation and kind of incentive for people to follow the rules? Because they're like, I want to go to this restaurant, or I want to go to church, or whatever.
Yeah. So we're in phase 1 right now, which means restaurants at 50%. It means parks are open, but playgrounds aren't. And no venues, nobody's having concerts.
Yeah, nothing big, no church gatherings yet, So have you been able to see like close friends from your church and stuff like that now? And maybe
so
have
into where we're doing. We've been doing. It's pretty warm here, so we've been doing a lot of outside happy hours and outside family gatherings, and pretty early. You and I talked the first week I was in quarantine, and it was really bad for me.
Yeah, you went hard fast.
Yeah, because I don't know if our friends watching know, but I actually got exposed to coronavirus like the first week of March. And so especially for here in Nashville, nobody was on stay-at-home orders or shelter-in-place orders. And I could not leave my little condo for 10 days. I wasn't allowed to go out. It was like,
do you have like friends bring you groceries or some app thing?
And I have a patio, and they would sit on, and I'm on a second floor, and I'd sit on the edge of my patio, and they'd sit in a folding chair on the ground and talk to me. It was awful.
Gosh.
It was awful.
So high extrovert, you live alone. That just sounds like 7th layer of hell for you.
Oh,
it sounds sounds like me at a cocktail party.
Yeah, it's the opposite. That's right.
That's when I imagine hell, I just imagine a cocktail party that never goes away.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Right. It's just like,
Yeah, I felt pretty trapped. And when that ended, my closest family here, a husband, wife, and kids, we kind of made a decision. There was them and then 2 girls and a guy. And we just kind of decided, like, we will see each other and we can hug, and we are going to quarantine from everybody else so that we can all see each other.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful, because for the back 40 days of our stay home, there was kids I could play with.
That's a gift. What a gift. Yeah.
We just had to decide, like, it may be a smidge risky health-wise, but the emotional toll of this thing, Jean-Marc.
Yeah, you have to have a holistic view of the human person. Yeah, right. We're more than an immune system.
I couldn't do, that long. I had gone probably 24, 25 days without physical touch. And I had no idea.
My wife is, really extrovert, warm culture, Latina. And so even with our family, even with affection from our 3 children and myself and our dog, she's been dying.
Yeah.
I mean, just like and she keeps saying, I need a hug. Like
Yes.
I need to touch people. Scientists call it skin hunger. It's like a legitimate thing. You have
Yes.
a neurobiological need to touch skin to skin,
Right.
I mean, it's interesting that solitary confinement, it's interesting that solitude is both like the preeminent spiritual discipline, and it is the worst form of punishment we have other than execution.
Yes.
Solitary confinement,
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
You're right. I hadn't thought about that.
So you've been so gracious. I've already cut into your Disney Plus viewing time. So
don't tell all the secrets, man.
We're going to shrink this down. It's going to be shorter.
Okay.
And so
only if you want it to be, buddy.
Well,
I'm crazy.
Too fun to talk to. Don't say that, because then I'll just ask you questions for hours. So a disclaimer. So I think I said this. I have shingles, I found out. So if at any point I just start to glaze over and lean, and that's.
What does it feel like? Does it feel like chicken pox, or does it feel like the flu?
Well, I don't really remember what I think I have a mild case. I just have maybe like 20 something blister thingamabobbers on my side. And I thought it was like the worst spider bites of all time at first. And then my wife was like, honey, spiders don't bite you like 23 times. And I was like, oh, really? Maybe like a really hyperactive one? I don't know.
Right.
And so they feel a little bit, today it feels better, but they feel a lot better today, actually. It's been 10 days. They feel like bee stings. Like it's like having bee stings, but mild bee stings 24/7. But then the main problem was that you get like mild flu symptoms, but with no fever. And I got really bad headaches. And so last week I thought I just had spider bites. I exercised 6 days in a row and was just like dragging every day on my runs. I had splitting headaches. I was like trying to preach, but I was just like angry in my head. I couldn't, you get I don't get headaches very often.
Yeah.
So then I realized, it's because you have shingles.
Yeah. Holy cow, dude.
So I feel like I'm in a Jerry Seinfeld like stand up. Like, what could be worse than being a pastor a lot of things could be worse, but pastor leading a church through a global pandemic comes down with shingles. That's fun.
Also, I'm not trying to be this guy, but aren't they from stress?
Yeah, and that's embarrassing too, because then all my like Jungian ego shadow stuff is like, it's like you wrote the book on hurry. I'm supposed to never, ever be stressed, ever. I'm just always live in a perpetual state of calm.
Jean-Marc, we are living in a pandemic that has never happened on the planet. Our bodies are telling truths that our minds and our spirits don't even know. You are doing nothing wrong by being stressed about this. Your body is responding to a world we have never had to live in before.
Yes. It's so true. So I'm good in my spirit. I'm exhausted and tired. In theory, I'm 2 weeks away from vacation tomorrow. Not that I'm counting, but everything's kind of in pencil because of the church and what happens with stuff. So in theory, I have offline at the beach for 12 days.
Okay.
Starting June 5th or something like that. So we'll see.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So that said, I have shingles. You're an extrovert in COVID, but you're coming out. You're on the backside. There's 2 questions I want to ask you, and then we can talk about whatever.
Okay.
Question number 1. So the end of my book, kind of 3 parts to the book. Part 1 is kind of my case against hurry and for a life of slow. Part 2 is kind of the solution's not more time, it's to slow down and simplify. And part 3 is kind of 4 practices from the way of Jesus to actually go from idea into like to get it into your body at a cellular level, so because so much Christian teaching, it just never goes past information and inspiration. It never actually gets into the body, into your schedule, into your budget, into your life, into how you actually rewire how God made you to be. So the end is kind of practices. Sabbath is one of those practices. We chatted a bunch about it last week with the Beckys, but I would love to hear. You are a type 7 on the Enneagram, high extrovert, single, Sabbath, go.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
do
just
we
talk
talk
about it.
about our text messages yesterday where I was like, John Mark?
Yeah, there's something you have to say. I don't know. Like, I just want to hear it all. I
Yeah.
want to hear.
Well, for starters, you and the Bethkes have been my teachers, really. I mean, I went to Israel in 2015 for the first time, and we experienced Sabbath, and I had never experienced anything like it. And I came home and read Garden City. My friend Matthew gave me Garden City right when I got home, and 3 of us read it. Me and Matthew and Ross all read it, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is a thing that I'm supposed to be observing and actually is good for my life. And
it was not on my radar at all. Like, growing up in the church, I mean, it was like, it's not like a Jewish thing or not. I mean, Lord's Day church was a thing, 100%.
Yes.
But a day of not even in my field of vision.
No, nor I. I mean, I'm like you. I grew up in church. My parents aren't pastors, but if the door was open and the Coke machine was taking quarters, I wouldn't care. I mean, I didn't miss. And we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And after that experience, I kind of went like, okay, what would it look like for me to find a day like that? And at the time, I was 4 years into full time of this job of writing and traveling and speaking. And I had 2 pretty solid meltdowns in those 4 years, but I was also going 7 days a week, John Mark. But when you fly on a Saturday or fly home on a Sunday, you're like, well, I mean, all I did was fly today. I worked on some edits on the plane, or I checked on social media the whole time, but I only flew, so it wasn't a work day. And it just wasn't working for me. And so I started having a Sabbath day and so the way it looks, pretty quickly, I just put it on my calendar.
Right.
Even though I wasn't sure how to practice, I knew that the first practice was setting it aside.
Just show up at some level. Yeah.
And because I traveled 3 out of 4 weekends, that from 15 to 18, 2015 to 2018, I know. We can talk about it. I don't do it anymore. We can talk about it later. But because of that, Wednesday was my Sabbath. So I would work Monday, Tuesday in the office.
Yeah.
Wednesday would be my Sabbath. Thursday, I'm back at the office. Friday, Saturday travel. And then on Sundays, because I'm on the teaching team at my church, I am at church all day Sunday. So I count it as a work day.
Right.
And so I go to all the services. I usually try to do work in the middle, just so it counts as a work day. So I can go like, you work today. So in the last, I have not.
And you guys have lots of services on Sundays, or who knows what any of us have anymore.
There was a time when we had 4 services and 5 services on Sunday, right?
Right.
And so even if I'm not teaching or hosting, because I'm on the leadership team, I'm there for all the services. It's what I love to do. Right. And so what started happening and Wednesdays were great for me too, John Mark, and you're going to know this about me. If a normal Saturday is my Sabbath, I miss all my friends' kids' soccer games. I miss watching soccer myself, and I like watching soccer on TV. I don't make as many social plans, and because I'm not married yet and don't have kids yet, I'm alone. Now on a Wednesday, that's great because everybody's at work or at school.
It's a breath. You're not missing anything. That's the hard part, is because Sabbath, up until so recently, was built into the cultural architecture. Even in America, like prior to the 60s, like it was kind of, whether you were religious or not, Sunday was a Sabbath. I mean, there was nothing to buy.
Right.
Yeah. And so now it's so hard because no matter when you do it, Saturday, Sunday, midweek, there isn't a cultural architecture that you just sit in. So you have to turn off your phone. You got to go to great lengths, and you got to schedule all this stuff, and you got to say no. It makes it so hard. One of the few, the downsides to losing kind of the Christian ethos or whatever. But But that's very pastoral. It's pretty normal for a lot of pastors to do a midweek Sabbath. AJ Swoboda, have you read his book on Sabbath?
No.
He's a buddy of mine. Was a church planner here for 10 years. Just recently moved back to a different town in Oregon to take a professorship. And his book, Subversive Sabbath, is like one of my favorites. Okay. And it's a kind of a life message for him, as it is for me and you, And so, he's a midweek Sabbath, and he literally wrote the book on Sabbath.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, to me, John Mark, I've been saying to people, because now that I've been practicing for 5 years, and I talk about it a lot, I say to people all the time, what I have seen in the last 5 years is Sabbath works just like tithing. If you will give back to God some of what he's given to you, you do not run out. You do not run out. And Pastor Kevin at Crosspoint says this a lot, but he says, I can do more in 6 days. No, God can do more with me in 6 days than I can do alone in 7.
Yes.
And it's just true. And it's proved true over and over again. I mean, you can, if someone went and did like a research of my company and my career in the last 5 years, it's astronomical, the growth. I couldn't have done what it's done, and I've done it in 6 days. I've never worked 7 days since 2015.
Well, it's a total myth that activity equals productivity.
Right.
And the more tired you are and the more you're on your phone, the less productive I mean, all the stuff. Like did you see those studies that made headlines a couple months ago? There were 2 that happened at the same week. Microsoft tried a 4-day work week in Japan.
Yeah.
And then there was this software company that tried a 5-hour workday. This is different than Sabbath, but they had like strict rules. Like you had to check your phone at the door, and they blocked like social media sites on people's web browsers, and meetings couldn't be longer than whatever. But it was a 5-hour workday. So 1 p.m., the whole office closed down. Everybody got out. Productivity went up for both examples, 40%.
My gosh.
Less work, less smarter. 40%, not 10%, not 4%, 40%.
And
I mean, it's such a myth that and Christians are sometimes the worst, because we'll just justify, well, we're about the gospel and we're the kingdom and we're doing these things. We care about first off, Jesus practiced Sabbath. So you think the world, it does all sorts of logical breakdowns, but it just doesn't even actually accomplish the aim that you want it to, know?
Right. And mine shapes a little bit differently than your family's does from what
that's what I want to hear. I want to hear what's single type 7 extrovert Sabbath. Tell me all.
Yeah. So mine doesn't usually. So right now it's a Saturday because I'm not traveling. None of us are. So I've moved it back to Saturday.
Got it.
And it works out great because Monday through Friday we're in the office or we're working. Saturday is my Sabbath, and Sunday is church and getting ready for the week.
I love that.
It's a beautiful rhythm that I would love to figure out, and I will work to figure out in our next normal of what comes after this.
Right.
But so mine usually starts with Friday night. I just do what you teach. I spend Friday afternoon straightening up my house, because I know on Saturday there is no dishes, there's no laundry. The only thing I do in the kitchen, if I want to cook something that's a fun recipe.
Yes, I like cooking.
That. Yeah.
Yes, I'll normally make a big brunch, but I'm trying to teach myself to cook. I want that in my life. Yeah.
I think there's something really beautiful about it. And so I love cooking something I've never tried on Saturday. But the one that is the least discussed is I don't buy anything on Saturday. Yes. I take real seriously the teaching of yours and others say,
well, that's just me passing on thousands of years of Hebrew wisdom and practice, you know?
The earth wasn't meant. I mean, we spend so much of our time and money to get people out of slavery, but we shop 7 days a week.
Which is one of the great contributors, you know?
Right. And so I do not buy anything on Amazon on Saturday. I don't spend money unless I'm getting coffee with a friend like that. I'll buy my coffee. So what mine usually looks like, I don't know if you know this, Sean Mark, but the biggest treat for me on Sabbath is I close my blackout curtains in my bedroom. It's the only night I do it.
Well, why? Why do you only do it?
Because I can
Shouldn't
sleep
you do that
as
every
late
night?
as I want the next morning. And so every other morning, the sun starts waking me up in the 6s and 7s.
Right. Yes.
But not on the Sabbath morning.
Not on the Sabbath.
I start closing them. I'm like, it's here. Oh, I can't believe there are hard parts about being single in my 30s, and there are beautiful parts. And one of the beautiful parts is I get to sleep in if I want to sleep in. And so I close my curtains and sleep late on Saturday. And then when I get up, I usually start with making tea, and I will go and read. And the thing about Sabbath also is I don't put anything on my calendar.
Wow.
So
you don't like stack it with all your best friends or activities, going to museums or?
No.
Wow.
I've been in the 5 years I've practiced Sabbath, I've gone and seen a movie once on Sabbath. And I had a really bad one this week. But other than that,
Okay.
I mean, it's what Bethke teaches of like, just because you have a bad Christmas doesn't mean you cancel Christmas for your
Yes,
family.
totally. So do you spend the entire day alone, or do
Just
you
about. If
really?
I
I'm
will
surprised by
sometimes,
that.
I know, right? Aren't you impressed?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm not impressed. I would have no judgment. I would imagine that you would go out as you should. I mean, being with
Yeah.
people
So
is not work. It's wonderful.
usually Saturday dinner is with somebody. Like
Got
usually
it.
I'm whatever is happening socially after the sun goes down.
At the end of Sabbath,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into that. And usually if I'm practicing on a Saturday, I'll like see if any of the families with kids want to go on a walk. I'll
Right.
maybe see one person. But the funny thing is, after practicing for 5 years, people know and no one reaches out to me anymore. like even my mom was like, "Oh, I knew it was your Sabbath, so I didn't call." I was like, "Mom,
Oh, you're like,
you
Mom,
can
I want to talk to
call
you.
me. I'm a
Yeah.
person." My rule with technology is I delete social media off my phone on
Okay.
Friday night. But because I don't want to turn my phone all the way off since it's just me,
Right.
my theory is more respond if someone else reaches out, but spend as little time. I mean, you can only
Totally.
text so many people before you're
Yeah.
like, I'm just using my time to text because I don't want
Yes.
to feel
It's
what I
not
feel.
helpful. Have you considered it all? A couple of my friends have gotten landlines.
Yeah, and having that is the only one that works on
Yeah, I have
Sabbath.
a couple of friends who like I don't have any problem just being out of touch for a day.
Yeah,
But I know some people. I have several good friends that love the Sabbath, but really can't stand the idea of not being able. What if something happened, or what if my
yeah,
parents? And you can get a landline for like $20 a month or something like that, and they just give the number like just to their closest friends.
that's
Like if you
right.
need me on Sabbath, there it
This is
is.
how you get me. That's a great idea. That's
I
a
don't know.
great idea.
What do you do to kick in? Like, do you have any kind of ritual to begin your Sabbath on right now, Friday night, normally
No,
Tuesday
I
night?
haven't done that as well as I know y'all's families do meals on the night before or the start of Sabbath. I probably am more as soon as the work is done and the cleanup is done and I'm ready for Sabbath. And I probably am more just read a book or listen to
Yeah,
music
something to kind
or
of ease in.
yeah,
I've been wondering, it sounds like you in Nashville are enjoying far more American freedoms than we are in
yeah,
Portland. But I read that great article. Did you read the article going around on like the science behind Zoom fatigue from the
yes,
BBC? And we were passing that
yes,
around to our community leaders and staff. And at one point, one of the doctors used this analogy. He's talking about why it's so exhausting, why like all this digital stuff is like we feel more tired
all
than we
right,
would, in a
right,
meeting. And we don't have any commute. It's often it's shorter, but we feel so tired. And so there's all the science behind it. And then at one point he said, part of it is because we're used to different spaces for different relationships. Like
yeah,
you go here for a date, you go here for church, you go here for work, you go here for the gym. But now he's like, imagine if you walked into a bar and you met your professors there, and then you met your parents there,
right,
and then you went on a date there, and
right,
then you did email for your work there. And he's like, there's no delineation of space. Like our whole world is on this little screen in front of us in our
yeah,
living room or
yeah,
whatever. So I just feel like those rituals that demarcate sacred space and just
yeah,
work from rest, from play, those. And the funny thing about a medium like Instagram is it's designed to blur all the lines.
yes.
Is this catching up with my family? Is this play? Is this shopping? Is this church? Is this work? Is this, it's designed to put it all in the same place. And
Yeah.
I think that's a great challenge, so I don't
I'd
know.
be interested to hear from Bethany or other singles in your community who are practicing Sabbath, how they start. Because it is
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you why I really mucked up Sabbath this week is because I got really angry about all this Friday. It took me, 12 weeks of
Angry
quarantine.
about
About
global
our lives,
pandemic or just, yeah.
about how everything has stopped, about some of the things that have been canceled,
Yeah.
about some of the things it makes not possible. Like, I really love being around strangers and meeting new people, and this makes it impossible to be around strangers and meet new people.
Yeah.
And for a single person, it is a complicated thing to not get a chance to meet anyone.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
100%. It just feels like everything's put on hold,
Everything's put on hold, right? And I
With
just
and
got
not like not even like and you can do it again September 1. Just like
just
maybe
like that
September
life
1,
you
maybe
have right
next
there is
year,
yours.
maybe never. I mean, it's just
Right.
like all the doom and
Right.
gloom.
It's very, yeah. And so I just got mad about all of that Friday.
Yeah.
And so then when Saturday started, I was like, Lord, you want me to spend another day alone on purpose? Like, when my 6 days are busy, having one that is quiet with the Lord to like grieve. And I grieve a ton on my Sabbaths, John Mark. I mean, I cry real things almost every time because my life has gotten quiet. And
Yes.
I
All that
feel
comes
something.
up.
Yes.
And it's all there. It's not that Sabbath is bringing it out. It's
Right.
that Sabbath is creating a safe place for what's already in you to come out.
Right. And so Saturday of this week, I was like, you know what? I'm not really interested in this today. And I felt in me, this is disobedience. What you're doing is disobedience. And I mean, as disrespectful as I could be, I was like, sorry, I just don't have it. And I put on New Girl and I watched all day, and I didn't read my Bible and I didn't. And I reached out to friends and I posted something very important on Instagram. And I mean,
I don't even know what New Girl is. Is it like Scandalous?
It's a TV show.
Is it like Orange is the New Black?
No.
Evil? No.
No. It's like a Fox sitcom.
Okay,
like
great.
Zooey Deschanel is the lead star. So if that puts it in it's just a sitcom with a lot of episodes. Anyway, I was mad at myself when the day was over because I thought, you literally have to talk to your favorite person who talks about Sabbath this week, and you were disobedient on purpose because you're mad. And that's like, and so it was a really interesting feeling. I haven't done anything like that in my 5 years of practice.
Yeah.
But I was like, you think I want to spend one day alone with, I mean,
it's like telling the hungry to fast.
Right. I'm still feeling it clearly. I was like, if you think I'm going to take a whole day and spend it with you when I couldn't do it, John Mark.
Yeah.
And sorry.
No, don't apologize at all. I mean, it sounds to me like you're grieving.
Yeah.
Anger. I'm like, that's one of the biggest learning things for me is that grief isn't just sadness.
Right.
Grief is a whole range of emotions: anger, denial, bargaining, sadness, manipulation, control, fear. These are all subcategories of grief.
Yeah.
The main way that I grieve is I get mad. I get just angry and resentful.
That's like
the main way. And then I get irritable with the people that I live with. That's the main way that grief comes out through my body, Yeah.
I think I need to, it has been, I said to someone yesterday, I was like, Friday to right now has been the worst part of this for me, which is surprising.
So interesting, because you're kind of coming back. You're on the other side.
Right.
Well, don't you think there's some kind of a like post-adrenal fatigue? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we've been persevering, we've been getting through, and then we come out and it's not like we're all back to normal. It's like we're just to a different phase now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's that inevitable kind of crash, I mean, some of that is just your body.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just honoring.
I just have shingles coming out of my eyes. You have it on your back. I'm just crying it.
Yeah, here I am talking about the body as I have shingles. I wonder what my body is saying to me.
Right. So
I'm so sorry, Annie.
Sabbath where I was too angry and too hurt to practice.
Yeah.
But I did. But I feel even today. I thought I'm glad I get to go again on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm glad I get to try again. And
that's the gift, is it comes every single week.
It comes every week. And it is such a gift. I mean, here's the great thing it reminds me. The internet does not need me 7 days a week.
Yeah.
No one that follows me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, they don't need me 7 days a week. If anybody is getting something met that needs to be reminded that they don't need to get stuff met, it's me.
Yeah.
And so it is so good for me to practice a day without any of that and to not be able to catch up. You miss entire stories.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
Right. To you. But it
You
is,
know,
it's an important thing.
I read the autobiography a couple months ago of this. I maybe you've read it, maybe not, but Elton Trueblood, who was a 20th century Quaker intellectual. He was the chaplain at Stanford
That's
University.
so
Anyway,
sweet of you to say maybe you've read it, maybe you haven't. Because
well,
we
I don't
all
know.
know. We all
Maybe
know
you
John
have.
Mark.
I don't know. He wrote a couple. He wrote a bunch of books. He wrote a couple that I know some people have read.
Yeah.
Anyway, he just had this great insight. He said, the more public your life is, the more you have to learn to hide.
Yeah.
And of course, that's
Good.
100% true for somebody like you who's a kind of internet sensation. But with social media, everybody's life is public now. You know what I mean? It's like everybody is in this voyeuristic celebrity promote yourself, like weird public thing. It's like
Right.
every single person. It's not just like, you know, the Elton Truebloods anymore or the Annie Downs. It's like everybody. But especially for somebody in your situation where you have such a voice and you're such a gift to so many, and so many people just live off of, you know, your life as it comes digitally into their soul, you know. So the need for you to hide, you know, not to be alone, to be with really close friends,
Yeah.
to be in those spaces where you don't have to be on, you don't, you know what I mean? You can just, and you're a really down to earth person, but where you are really
Yeah.
free
I
to
mean,
just be
my
you.
mentor and I have been talking about the 4 types of life you have: the public life, the personal
Mm,
life, the private life, and the secret life. And you
mm.
really shouldn't have a secret life. I mean, you should with the Lord, but
Yes.
you shouldn't have a secret life where nobody knows. But that
Yeah.
line between private life and personal life is what I have to balance, because I think it's super important that people use their influence and share their personal life. We
Yes.
should
Not
share
just
what's personal,
content. Yeah.
not just public. You should
Because you
share
are the
what,
gift, not just your book or your sermon.
that's so
God
true.
in you is the gift.
That's it. But then we need to have private lives that are
Yeah.
flourishing and important. I mean, no one on the internet knows who I date. It's just,
Yeah.
it is just 100% private until he puts a ring on it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is very private to me. But I just posted about going and
What they
exercising.
don't know that you're engaged to Tim Tebow right now. They have
He's so
no
married.
idea.
That's
Oh, is
terrible.
he? Oh, so, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I just was thinking,
Yes,
who's a cool,
though.
who's a single
That was
guy?
a great
That's
pull
right.
from the sky. Well done.
I'm
But
trying to contextualize to your Southern roots. I know you
right,
like
you did
sports.
it.
I was trying to meet you where you're at, you
It
know,
was
and I'm
very
so out
kind
of
of you.
date.
It was a
What do
good
I know?
friendship move. I do appreciate it. But the thing we get to learn is having a public life and a personal life are important to share. My
Yeah.
Sabbath happens in my private life. My secret life is sinful.
Yeah.
And if there's any version of that where someone, I mean, I did Marco Polo, my mentor, and confess my sin this week. And it's like, well, this is weird that anyone could hack into this and they're going to hear these 3 things, but it's the only way we can do it right now, right? But that's because I refuse to have a secret life. I refuse to
Yeah.
have something come out on the internet and no one in my life have known that thing about me, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You know, it's been so interesting. I've long fought so hard for an integrated person to be the same person on Instagram talking to you as I am with my wife when I'm in a bad mood, as I am when I'm on stage teaching. Done everything I can to integrate. When I had our firstborn kid, when my wife was pregnant with our firstborn Jude, I got a little nervous because there's such a reputation for pastors' kids being like bad news. And I'm like, that feels like it should be the opposite, you know, like not like a guarantee, but it feels like you should be ahead of the bell curve, not behind, you know?
Right.
And so I went around and my dad's a pastor, had a great experience. All 4 of us kids, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. All of us are following Jesus, love the church. Most of us are in church leadership at some level. And so I went around and asked a bunch of older, wiser mentors, like, why is that phenomenon where so many pastors' kids are rebellious or weird? And it was really interesting. I thought they'd all say it was the workload or it was the stress or it was dad was gone so much. None of them said that. All of them gave the exact same answer without thinking about it. And they said it's hypocrisy. They said when dad or mom is one person on stage and a different person in real life, it's the ultimate turnoff, the ultimate.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that all, pastors whose kids don't follow Jesus aren't, don't read into that.
Sure.
But there's life and there's free will and agency, and we live in a very secular world.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's something to that deep. So I've always really wanted, of course, I don't live it, but I've always wanted to really live this integrated same person everywhere I go, not guarded, not cautious, not calculating, just trying to be the same person all the way through. And that's still my heart, but I think had to realize even Jesus, who was very integrated, there was a difference between Jesus and the
Right.
crowds, Jesus in the 70, Jesus in the 12, and then even there was the subset. He left the 12 to go with Peter, James, and John in the Garden of Gethsemane to actually sweat drops of blood and process. And then there's that line in John where it said he did not entrust himself to them because he knew what was in them.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that's like not guarded in the negative sense, but he did not entrust himself. And then I read this great thing on how, if you think about Jungian frame of like your shadow, that you can only show your shadow to, I read two different things. One psychologist said 9 to 12 people. The other said 3 to 5, meaning there's a very small number of people, not even your entire nuclear family, that really you can just completely come to ease with and let them see everything that's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And he actually was saying it's a good thing. Like if we could share our shadow, if like be intimate with 500 people, we'd be exhausted. Like I only have a couple people. I'm at that level. They know everything.
Right.
Like they know everything. There's no secret,
Right.
but it's exhausting to keep those relationships up with 2 or 3 people. I can't imagine it with 50 or 1,000 or,
Right. Right.
So
I mean, it feels like it. Yes, because I am the same Annie. I hope on my best days, I'm the same Annie in all that spectrum of relationship. What is different is the level of what I will share. It doesn't change me. It changes the content.
Yes, totally.
Right.
There's this, have you heard of proxemics? I've been thinking a lot about this for the church. There's this dude, I can't remember his name. He's a sociologist who came up with this idea called proxemics, which is basically the level of intimacy in a relationship can be measured by the distance between you, like physical distance, proximity. And he came up with 4 spaces of belonging that we need all. It was public, social, personal, and intimate, I think was the language. Public is like you go to, what's your sports team? Who do you?
The Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta Falcons. You go to Atlanta Falcons game, or you're a Republican or a Democrat or an American, or you go to a mega church, or like that's your public, and you're like there in the crowd. There's an identity. I'm a Falcons fan, and we need that. We need to rally around tribal things that are way bigger than us. And then, I think it was the social was like 100 to 150.
Okay.
And that's like that book, Strength of Weak Ties. You need those relationships when you're like, I need a plumber. Anybody know a plumber? Or I need a job, or I need a date, or anybody have babysitters they know? Like you need weak ties. You actually need that. Then personal was like your friend group, and that was 15 to 30. It's about the max number that you can have friendships with. Everybody's a little different. And then your intimate was, I think, 2 to 5, like the people that you can actually really be intimate with, And his case was that you need belonging and relationships in all 4 spaces. And so there's a guy that wrote about the church and like how that would shape how church often only does big groups, public, and then they do small groups. But the problem is people come to small groups wanting one of the 3 different categories. Some people want social, some people want personal, some people want intimate. Right. And you're in this little room with 10, 15 people, and you have a problem because different people want different levels. Some people just want to chat about diapers, and others of us like me just want to do confession of sin 3 minutes in, like, I am struggling with, I don't even know if I believe it. What I mean? They're like, whoa, I just wanted to have Taco Tuesday, bro. And like pray for you and hope it works out. Man, so it's funny because it's interesting. Those 4, I've been thinking about the 4 spaces of relationship, the last one being the intimates.
The risk and the cost also. I mean, all I got to do to be included in an Atlanta Falcons game is show up in red and black. Yeah. Right? Like each of them requires a different level of you risking. Am I going to be accepted here? Right. And I think that's what makes intimate relationships scary and beautiful is it is a full risk. I mean, me confessing my sin, I had to confess I said something unkind yesterday at a meeting of pastors. I'm shocked. I've
never done that.
And so I had to confess it this morning. I mean, I was sitting right here in my kitchen reading my Bible. It's still sitting there. And I couldn't even get the pages turned. And the Lord was going, you have to confess. And I was like, I'm just trying to read Luke. I couldn't do it. And so I had to send a text to confess. And the whole time I thought, Annie, you know they're going to love you anyway. Y'all have a confessing relationship. Like, why are you afraid this time is going to cost you any different? They heard what you said. Like, they heard you. Like, but that is the intimate. And that group would fit in that bottom half for me, the like personal and intimate. And I just, it is so scary. The risk is so high, but the reward is, oh my gosh, one of them was like, I ate a chip off the ground yesterday, so I'm saying you, like it is just, but that, especially before you're married, and especially when you aren't sharing a bed with someone and sharing a full life with someone, it's so important to have versions of intimacy with other people, because I don't know how we live without it.
And people don't realize that you can be lonely. You can be lonely in a marriage.
Oh, I'm sure.
And not always because the marriage is unhealthy. Like, you know what I mean? It's a very super weird late American idea that your marriage partner is your soulmate and will be your entire relational, emotional, spiritual world. And you're setting a relationship up for failure.
Yeah.
It's not how people thought about marriage historically at all, So even people don't realize, single people all think that all married people aren't lonely. And then but married people are quietly lonely often because there's social pressure not to say anything about that. And you don't want to embarrass your spouse, and you know what I mean? But there's certain emotional needs that I can't meet for my spouse, and my spouse can't meet for me. And that's not bad. That's because we're made for not just two individuals seeking religion and romance, but for life. Now, what I'm curious about is why, as such an extrovert, I'm sure you have good reason, you don't spend your Sabbath with your intimates, having coffee and crying and confessing sin and laughing with two people or whoever those people are for you in your life, or family or.
Part of it is that no one in my close circle observes Sabbath but me. And so I'm the only one doing it. And so it isn't quite like a community decision where everyone is in their homes. Now, everyone is totally fine that I do and loves that I do, but I haven't seen a lot of people adopt it in their own life, which is fine. And so that's part of it, is that it's not like a community decision. But I do I do see someone I'm like, it's so funny because I know we've only done 12 weeks of stay home, but I'm like, what did I do on my Sabbaths before I couldn't see anyone? But I mean, usually it was coffee with someone, but it was never, this is such a funny line and it's rude to draw this line, but it was never anyone who was taxing. And it's never anyone who needs anything from me besides friendship and reciprocal love and all that kind of stuff. It's not I don't meet with the young women that I mentor or the young men that I mentor on my
it's a reciprocal relationship. Of course, all of us are taxing at some point, but a relationship where overall the balance ledger is, this is a friendship of mutuality.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so that's who I do see, is if I go, man, I've been dying to get coffee with you. And one of my favorite Sabbaths I had is I have a really good friend here who she's married, she has 2 kids, and her family does observe Sabbath. And she took a Wednesday. The kids were in school. This was probably a year ago. The kids were in school, and some friends of ours own a cabin about 30 minutes south of here. And we asked them if we could just go read at the cabin. So we went for the whole school day. And there's no phones down there, but because we were with each other, I felt totally safe not having a working phone. And her husband knew where we were, and man, it was one of my we read magazines. We both took naps. I try to always take a nap on a Sabbath.
That sounds like something my wife would love. It's like kind of alone, but not really, kind of hanging out, but quiet and relaxing.
Yeah, we switched from hammock to, they had like a daybed swing, and we switched halfway through to the other piece of
well, maybe you need to figure out how to do that. We've just started having 1 or 2 single people come Sabbath with us. There's one guy,
kind.
2 guys, and they're living alone, and we love them, and they're super life-giving. And we have a little Christ room, kind of little guest room they can sleep in. And they come and they kind of they read a whole book this week and played with our kids and had brunch with us and dinner, and
That's really kind of you. When I,
Oh no,
hopefully
I
when
mean,
I have a,
I'm not kind of us. I mean, we enjoy this person. It's not like it's a
so,
sacrifice, you know, but yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I look forward to, hoping I get to get married and have kids, is inviting single people into some practices that are just a little bit more defined and easier in a family. Like
Totally.
like I even when I sat with my two pastor friends yesterday that I had to confess to today, what they were both talking about how much their family intimacy has grown in these 12
Yes.
weeks and how their kids have loved it. Well, I've had the opposite experience. And I thought, man, I look forward to another time if this ever happens again. And I hope I have a family, because I'm into spending a day in quiet with my people. Now, I'll first have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old and all those things, and I recognize it'll be different. But I think it's great of you to invite people in, because then they are learning how to practice it themselves in a way they can invite other people into, and their dads and husbands. And that's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, it is. And I think, you know, in the family of God, families have a responsibility to really be, not just to have it be platitudes, but really be family as they can for single people, you know. But also, I think there is a little bit of a weird myth that says you can only do hospitality if you're a family with a home.
Yeah.
A home meaning like you can only do hospitality if you like have a spouse and 2.3 kids and a backyard and a mortgage, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's, first off, the monks have had the highest value for hospitality of anybody in church history. And none of them were married, and none of them
Right.
had their own home or a backyard or a barbecue, you know?
Right.
So there's a spirit of hospitality that anyone who follows Jesus can practice. Of course, there are logistics, and if you're living in
Yeah.
a college dorm, it's a little harder. You
Right.
have to really embrace the spirit
Yeah.
of hospitality, you know. But I
Yeah,
do
you're
think
kind of
there's
making me
something
think,
there.
like, why don't I host a Sabbath dinner on Friday nights once we can sit?
Let's,
Like, my
um,
friends don't have to observe it
your
the rest of
best
the day.
friends would no, they would all. Or why
Yes.
don't you say, hey, Sarah, or whoever your friend is, that's a name out of thin air. Why don't you leave your phone at home and come over for 4 hours on Sabbath, and let's, you know, just have some tea and relax, and then I'll fall asleep, and then we can have dinner together after. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a great idea. I think that is something. As you're talking, I'm going, yeah. Well, I don't have to wait to host pieces of Sabbath with other people. I can be
right.
modeling that and sharing that experience. It solves two problems. It solves my alone, and it solves that I don't have a Friday night leading into a Saturday.
Yep. You know, one thing we've done for a long time, and honestly, hardly anybody takes us up on it, which maybe that says something about us, but is we've just done an open table every Friday night to begin Sabbath. So open table, not like for anybody, but for our community, our little church community, and for my family that's in town.
Yeah.
They just know, standing invite. Any Friday night, we want to, you know, text us ahead of time so we make sure we have enough food. And if it's a bunch of people were to show up, we'll have them bring stuff. But we just know we make the same dinner every Friday night. Open table, 6 o'clock. If you want to come, it's a standing invite, you know, to come join us for dinner. Only people that we can really fully rest with, you know. So it's just people we're really close to.
That's brilliant. And y'all
something like
make
that.
the same vegetarian curry is that what you've heard? Is that what I've heard?
We make the same dinner every Friday night, just ease, simplicity. I make a different brunch on Saturdays, but yeah, we make a sweet potato spicy soup. Like,
Sweet potato soup.
And then my wife makes, I don't know how to make it. I make the soup sometimes, but she makes homemade sourdough bread with cheddar and jalapeno.
Oh, let's
not
go.
Vegan. The soup is vegan, but the bread is not. And I can't. We time it so it comes out hot right as we finish our prayer and sit down to eat. Oh,
yeah.
Fresh
That's great.
sourdough bread.
You can hold me to that. Ask me again at the end of the summer if I've invited anybody into a Friday night Sabbath dinner. Give me a couple of weeks to for everybody to feel fine being in people's houses, but hold me to that I will.
Well, I'm just asking because, you know, I mean, I crave hours and hours of alone because I'm an introvert with 3 wonderful kids and I'm a pastor of a church. I'm an introvert in an extrovert's job. So I just crave psychological space and downtime. But if you're a single extrovert, you know what I mean? I mean, I would spend as much of the days, even my wife, who isn't crazy extroverted, but she'll pretty much always have tea or coffee with one of her friends. It's just a list of about 2 or 3 people, all our very, very closest friends in community. But almost every Saturday afternoon, she'll be like, I'm going over well, right now everything's a little goofy. Right now
Right,
it's like
right.
going on the back deck from
Yeah.
6 feet away, you know, or
Yeah.
nothing. But,
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know,
for me, the discipline wasn't the discipline of Sabbath and the practice of Sabbath is learning to love the alone, because I've never
yeah,
loved it. I will fill my days when I can fill my days and not be here. I
yes,
do. And so
yes.
to me, I've
Learning to
kind of,
love that, yeah, not the frenetic activity.
yeah. And so I've had to, and so what I'm learning and what I feel like I'm feeling in myself even right now is like, okay, you swung all the way to where you can do an alone full day, but what if now you invite people in? Like, I
Yeah,
feel like that's a good middle. I needed to do that swing because had lived 30 plus years on the planet and
right.
not done alone very well, even though I'd always been alone, right? I mean,
And, you know, maybe the future of you learning the kind of discipline of alone and discipline of not doing, maybe that would be better served in like a monastic silence and solitude day, you
yeah,
know, where you spend a night at a monastery or a retreat center or go for a day or go for a couple of days. And maybe Sabbath, now that you have that in your muscle memory, maybe it becomes more of a day of delight and the deepest relationships you have, and still quiet and letting
yeah.
your body and your limbic system calm. But you know, maybe it becomes something different for you.
Yeah, it feels like the mornings have that good, quiet, just me rhythm, and the afternoon. Yeah. Okay. Done. I will do it. I'll
Okay.
invite people over for dinner on Friday.
No, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm
I think
just
it's
loving.
right.
I just don't want you. If my teaching has influenced you in some way, I don't want my introversion to be projected onto you, feeling like I'm not Sabbathing if I'm with people and partying. Like, whoa, no, back up the train. Don't let, that's my crap, not
No,
yours.
no, you are overestimating your
Of my
introversion
influence.
influence. Don't panic.
Okay,
You
great,
can't make me
good.
not extroverted. Your teaching has done nothing but added value to my life. So don't
Um,
worry at all. Don't
Well,
worry
it's
at
tricky with
all.
Sabbath because you want to give people really practical ideas, but there's no one size fits all approach. And it's
That's right.
so different for a single extrovert living alone than it is for an introvert with 3 kids. And you know what I mean? It's just
And I
totally
hear
different.
so much from people online who are like, how do I do this as a mom? How do I do this as a mom? And so I
Yep.
point them to a couple of different moms who talk about it publicly. And I'm like, go watch.
Who are they? I'd love to.
Shireen Eldridge is my number one that I point to. She does
Okay. Is
she
she
does a,
connected to John Eldridge or
no,
different?
her husband's name is Micah Eldridge. He's a pastor in
Okay.
Omaha.
Got it.
And she about once a week will do a video, and they have 4 kids under 10. He's like, here's how you do it. I mean, she is so good at teaching it for what they do for small kids. And that's the group that I hear the most from, going like, I don't know how
Yes,
to do
push
it.
back.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that it doesn't get easier.
Really, it doesn't.
Well, I mean, I think the 2 hardest times for families are really little kids, like where they like you can't like not watch them because they'll tear your house down and blow up the stove with natural gas or
Yeah.
something, you know, and teenagers.
Mm, yeah.
Because think of teenagers, psychologically, they're spreading their wings. They're trying to build independence. They want to go out. They're all about, how do I leave home and go out into the world? I want to hang out with my friends. All teenagers are extroverts, even the introverted ones, you know,
Yeah.
and they want to leave home. They want to go out. They want to be active. They want constant stimulation. They're, you know, it's totally out of Gen Z. It's not even in their worldview to be offline, you know,
Right.
so. And it's a trick because kids have more autonomy at that age. And so we want to raise our kids into Sabbath, but we'd rather have them not have a perfect Sabbath practice than have them go to college and be like, Sabbath was stupid and legalistic, and that's the day I never got to hang out with my friends or listen to rock and roll. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And I think
you know,
this conversation is so good for our friends watching, because it is just a reminder of how much it's a practice. Like, even if we're talking, I'm like, okay, there are ways I can shift my practice that does not break it or make it. I can try some new things.
The mistake is just to say, well, I'll do it later.
That's it.
And what are you teaching your kids if you're saying, I'll Sabbath after you're all gone?
Yes.
Whoa, what are you giving your children in their muscle memory to carry into college and beyond? You know, so it's less about delay and it's more about adaptation for that stage of life.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And I have to do the same. I mean, it is just like prayer. It is just like fasting. It's a discipline that we learn and we practice and we adjust as our seasons of life change, or as a pandemic happens and we lose our minds and can't do it. And I couldn't do it this week. So it's good though. I'm grateful.
I have a second question, but I'm way over time. So you can give me the 30-second answer. It does not have to be a 30-minute riff. One of the things I'm loving hearing as a pastor, and in particular with some of the things I care about a lot around hurry and margin and overload and its implications for our capacity for love, is I'm loving hearing people say, I'm not going back to the way it was.
Yeah.
And I don't mean doom and gloom kind of news pundit people saying like the world is over. I mean people saying, I just now realized how chronic exhaustion, overload, hurry, busy, overcommitted. Yeah. Richard Foster said we live lives of frantic faithfulness. Been thinking about that a lot. Overactivity, even with church. And I'm loving hearing people say, I don't want to go back to how it was. You know, I want to come back different. So it's such an incredible time to ask the question, like what stays and what goes. We're teaching we're doing a simplicity practice right now. So I'm teaching through simplicity. So I went back and reread all of the minimalism literature. I don't know if you follow any of that stuff. And there's this like legendary story from Ryan Nicodemus, who's one of the blogger duo that's the minimalist. That was kind of the original ones in the kind of recent iteration since the Great Recession. And so how he came into it is he literally, when he got into it at first, boxed up his entire house, like literally packed up to move, wasn't moving, put everything in boxes in the garage except for the huge pieces of furniture, everything. And then he slowly re-brought his house back together, thinking about every item. Do I need this? Do I need this extra spatula? Do I need 4 pairs of sheets? Probably one would do, or 2 at the most. Like, how many towels do I need? Like, you know what I mean? Just thinking through, because overconsumption just crowds our homes with so much waste and distraction and debt and all this stuff. So I love that. That's obviously an extreme way to do it. That would take, a lot of time. Most people don't have that much time to simplify or minimize their house and their things. But I love that as like a word picture of like the opportunity we have for our whole life right now. It's kind of like we had to box up our whole life. And now it's like, okay, what do we unpack as soon as we possibly can and be like, yes, we're back to eating at this restaurant on Thursday nights with our friends. And what are we like, oh, I don't think I'm coming back. I don't think I'll do that membership. I don't think I'll do that book club. I don't think, you know what I mean? So I'd love to hear, maybe you haven't thought about it, so no worries at all. But like, have you done any of that thinking? Is there any like what stays, what goes, anything you've been thinking about that's like, I don't think I want to come back to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing we should consider is if this shuts off after an hour, we'll just come back, because we're probably getting close to an hour, right? And I think
1 minute, 2 seconds remaining. I forgot about that. No, we're going to end it. I've taken up enough of your time. You have 57 seconds. No,
I was just going to say we should answer. We'll just have to start over.
No, 57 seconds. Go. Just be your awesome self.
I am going to, we have prioritized, everyone who works for me, we've prioritized getting outside every day and making work fit around that. And we will keep that.
Annie, you're an amazing soul. I've taken up an hour and 45 minutes of your life. What I said would be a 40-minute chat. And you need to go be Disney Plus and sleep and relax. And you're wonderful and such a lovely human being. And it's great to be your internet friend. And someday we'll actually get to meet, not intermeet.
That's my hope.
Is that what we said? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, John Mark. I really am grateful for you.
Love to you, Annie.
Same to you, buddy. Thank you.
Peace to you. Bye.